Hello and welcome to her revenge arc. This is a space for stories about women who were pushed into the shadows, only to find that in the darkness, they could orchestrate a dawn of their own making. The stories we share are not about petty vengeance. They are about the meticulous, intelligent, and deeply satisfying reclamation of power. Today's story is about architecture, the architecture of a marriage, of a betrayal, and ultimately of a perfectly constructed downfall. My name is Eleanor, and I was the original architect of the man who tried to demolish my life. He just forgot that the creator always knows where the structural weaknesses are. For 15 years, the life I shared with David Davenport was, to the outside world, a masterpiece of modern design. It was clean, elegant, and filled with light. Our home, a minimalist haven of glass and polished concrete that David himself had designed, was frequently featured in lifestyle magazines. He was the star architect, the visionary. I was his quiet, supportive wife, the woman who ran a successful, if niche online bookstore specializing in rare art and design history folios. I was the foundation upon which he built his empire. When we met in college, he was the brilliant, struggling student with sketches that could make you weep. I was an art history major, my head filled with the forgotten geniuses of the Bauhaus school and the Italian futurists. I saw the spark in him, a raw talent that needed nurturing. I put my own PhD aspirations on hold, taking a job at the university library so he could focus on his degree. I read his papers, helped him research, and spent my meager salary on drafting supplies. I was his first investor, and my currency was faith. After he graduated and started his firm, it was my small inheritance that provided the seed money. I never once thought of it as a sacrifice. I thought of it as a partnership. We were building our future together, brick by brick. Our life settled into a comfortable rhythm. David's firm grew, and his name became synonymous with cutting-edge design. Our marriage, I believed, was equally solid. It was no longer the fiery passion of our youth, but a deep, resonant partnership built on shared history and mutual respect. Or so I told myself. The truth is, looking back, the cracks had been forming for years, like hairline fractures in concrete. His gratitude had slowly curdled into entitlement. My support was no longer a gift, but an expectation. The partnership had subtly shifted. He was the artist, and I had become part of the scenery. The wrecking ball arrived in the form of a 20-year-old intern named Lily. "We have a new intern, an absolute prodigy," David announced one evening, his voice buzzing with a kind of energy I hadn't heard in years. "Lily Evans. She has an intuitive grasp of spatial dynamics. It's uncanny." I remember smiling, that practiced, supportive wife's smile. "That's wonderful, dear. It's good for you to have fresh talent to mentor." But his interest felt less like mentorship and more like discovery. Lily became a recurring character in our life, a ghost at our dinner table. Lily had this brilliant idea for the atrium in the new corporate headquarters. Lily had stayed late, just the two of them, and they'd had a breakthrough on the Hudson project. Lily had introduced him to a new band, a new restaurant, a new way of seeing the world. He was shedding his old self, the self we had built together, and putting on a new identity, one curated by a girl young enough to be our daughter. The signs were painfully cliché, but no less painful to witness. His phone, once left casually on the nightstand, was now perpetually in his pocket, its screen a dark, silent sentinel. He joined a high-end gym, his body growing leaner while the space between us grew wider. He started making small, cutting remarks about me. My love for vintage clothing was frumpy. My quiet evenings spent cataloging books were unambitious. He was slowly, methodically devaluing me, perhaps to justify the decision he had already made in his heart. The demolition was scheduled for the night of the annual Architects Guild Gala. It was David's big night. His firm was receiving the Firm of the Year award. He was at the apex of his career. I wore a vintage midnight blue gown, a timeless piece I knew was elegant. But as I stood beside him, I felt like a relic from a past he was eager to forget. His eyes were constantly scanning the crowd, a restless energy about him. And then he saw her. Lily. She was a vision of youth, clad in a stark white dress that made her look like a visiting angel against the room's dark decor. David's face lit up, and he led her over, his hand resting possessively on her lower back. "Eleanor, this is Lily Evans," he said, his voice a little too loud. "Lily, my wife, Eleanor." I extended a cool hand. "It's a pleasure, Lily. I've heard so much about you." "The pleasure is all mine, Mrs. Davenport," she said. Her handshake was firm, her gaze direct and ambitious. But as I looked into her face, a strange dissonant chord struck deep within me. It was a jarring sense of déjà vu. The cascade of dark, curly hair, the precise shape of her chin, the way her eyes, a deep shade of hazel, seemed to hold both intelligence and a hint of old-world melancholy. It was like looking at a ghost of myself 25 years ago. I dismissed the feeling as a product of jealousy and wine, a trick of the mind. The rest of the night I was an observer. I watched David and Lily from a few feet away, a ghost in my own marriage. They were a closed circuit, their shared glances and whispered laughs creating an invisible force field around them. He would touch her arm to make a point, she would laugh and tilt her head just so. They were performing the first act of their love story on the very stage meant to celebrate the life he and I had built. I felt a profound Arctic cold spread through my chest. It wasn't anger yet. It was the calm of absolute certainty. The calm of knowing something has irrevocably ended. The drive home was a vacuum of silence. When we walked into our glass house, the moonlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows made it feel like a sterile museum exhibit of our failed marriage. "David," I said, my voice as calm and clear as the glass surrounding us, "you need to tell me who she is to you." He didn't even have the courage to feign surprise. He just deflated, the triumphant architect suddenly a small guilty man. He confessed everything. He was in love. He hadn't felt this alive in decades. She understood his vision, his soul. The words were a pre-written script, and he delivered them with a coward's sincerity. "I'm leaving you, Eleanor," he said, unable to meet my eyes. "I'm moving in with her. I've already packed a bag. The lawyers will be in touch." He walked out, the door sliding shut with a soft final whoosh. And I was left alone in our perfect house, which now felt like a perfect cage. The silence was immense. For 2 days I did nothing. I let the dust settle, both literally and figuratively. My friends called, offering their furious sympathy. They called him a monster, her a homewrecker. I thanked them and hung up. Theirs was a simple story. Mine was about to become infinitely more complex. The unsettling familiarity of Lily's face gnawed at me. On the third night at 3 a.m. I turned on my computer. A name, a face, a feeling it wasn't enough. I needed data. My lawyer had forwarded the initial separation paperwork. It included her full name for his financial disclosures, Lily Marie Evans, and her date of birth, October 17th. October 17th. The date was a key turning a lock in a part of my soul that had been sealed for 21 years. My hands began to shake. I went to my closet to an old forgotten cedar chest tucked away in the back. I lifted the lid, the scent of my past rushing out to meet me. Underneath my old college textbooks and a faded sweatshirt, there was a small lacquered box. Inside was a life I had never spoken of to anyone, not even David. There was a faded photograph of a scared 17-year-old girl with wild, dark, curly hair, clutching a swaddled infant. That girl was me. And there was an official-looking document, folded and brittle, the final paperwork for a closed adoption. I had been a child myself, a secret shame to my devoutly conventional parents. They had arranged it all swiftly and quietly. They told me I was giving her a chance at a real life with 2 parents, a stable home. A life I couldn't provide. I signed the papers in a haze of grief and anesthesia. A single tear blotting the ink on my signature. I never even knew her name. She was just baby girl Miller. Miller was my maiden name. With a trembling finger, I traced the typewritten words on the old document. Name of child, baby girl Miller. Date of birth, October 17th. Place of birth, St. Jude's Hospital, Crestwood. My breath caught in my throat. It had to be a coincidence. But my heart knew better. This was not a coincidence. This was a reckoning. I went back to the cold glow of the laptop. I was no longer a grieving wife, I was a researcher. I typed Lily Marie Evans and Crestwood into the search bar. There were a few hits: a high school debate team victory, a local newspaper article. Then I found it. The public Facebook profile of a woman named Sarah Evans. And there, posted exactly 5 months ago, was a birthday tribute. It was a picture of Lily blowing out the candles on a cake. The caption read, "Happy 20th birthday to our amazing daughter, Lily Marie. We can't believe it's been 20 years since we got the call from the Crestwood Adoption Agency and drove all night to bring you home. You are the greatest gift we've ever received." The room spun. The words on the screen swam before my eyes. The air solidified in my lungs. It was her. Lily Evans, David's prodigy, his muse, his new life. She was my daughter. The baby I had given away. The sheer, staggering Greek tragedy level irony of it all was almost too much to bear. David hadn't just left me for a younger woman. He had left me for my own flesh and blood. He had, in his search for a new, exciting life, unwittingly found the one person on earth who was a perfect genetic echo of the woman he had just discarded. He had fallen for my past. My initial shock didn't curdle into rage. It crystallized into something harder, clearer, and far more dangerous: purpose. I looked around the glass house he had built, our sterile monument, and I saw not a tomb but a war room. He thought he was the master architect. He was about to find out what it felt like to have his foundations expertly and methodically dismantled. This would not be a messy, emotional confrontation. That was not my style. My revenge would be a piece of art. It would be quiet, elegant, and absolutely devastating. It would be a masterpiece. My plan began to form. David's entire identity was built on his reputation as a visionary, an original. He was praised for his innate genius. But I knew his history. I knew every project, every sketch. I remembered one project in particular, the one that had launched his career a decade ago. The award-winning Soaring Tower. A building lauded for its revolutionary cantilevered atrium. David had called the design a moment of pure inspiration that came to him in a dream. I had always found that a little too poetic. My online bookstore gave me access to a global network of dealers and archives. I began a quiet investigation, spending my nights not weeping but searching. I was looking for a ghost. An obscure post-war German architect named Klaus Richter, a man whose work I had briefly studied in college. He had died in obscurity, most of his plans lost or destroyed. But I had a hunch. After 2 weeks of relentless searching, I found it. A small private collector in Brussels had a rare self-published folio of Richter's conceptual drawings from the 1960s. I paid an exorbitant price to have it overnight. When it arrived, I handled it with the reverence of a holy text. And there, on page 34, was the design for an unbuilt community theater. And its centerpiece was a revolutionary cantilevered atrium. It was, line for line, the exact design of the Soaring Tower. David's moment of pure inspiration was pure theft. He had stolen his career from a dead man. I now had the weapon. The next step was to build the stage. I waited. I let David and Lily settle into their new life. I saw pictures of them on social media, so happy, so in love. He was parading her around as his new muse. The narrative was that her youthful genius had reignited his own. The irony was exquisite. 2 months later, the perfect opportunity presented itself. The International Architecture Foundation was hosting its annual awards ceremony in our city. David was slated to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award, the pinnacle of his career. He would be giving the keynote address. Lily would be there, beaming at him from the front row. The entire architectural world would be watching. The night before the ceremony, I set my plan in motion. First, I made high-resolution scans of Richter's original drawings and David's blueprints for the Soaring Tower. I placed them side by side. The plagiarism was undeniable, breathtaking in its audacity. I sent the files in an anonymous, encrypted email to Maria Flores, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist known for her ruthless takedowns of powerful men. The subject line was simple: the architecture of a lie. That was for his career. But my revenge needed a more personal touch. It needed to strike at the heart of his betrayal. For Lily, I prepared a special delivery. I took the small lacquered box from my cedar chest. Inside, I placed the faded photograph of 17-year-old me, holding her as a newborn. I added her tiny plastic hospital wristband, which still read, "Baby Girl Miller." And on top, I laid a single handwritten note on my finest linen paper. It said, "He told you your talent was uncanny. He was right. It's in your blood. The blood I gave you. Your mother, Eleanor Davenport." I had the box delivered by a bonded courier to their apartment, with instructions that it be delivered to Ms. Lily Evans, personally, at exactly 8 p.m. The precise moment David was scheduled to take the stage at the award ceremony. That night I did not go out. I poured myself a glass of expensive red wine, the kind David had always saved for special occasions. I sat in the quiet of my glass house and turned on the live stream of the award ceremony. I saw David at the podium looking proud, triumphant. He thanked the foundation. He spoke of integrity and vision. He smiled down at Lily in the front row. And then I watched it all unravel in real time. A quiet murmur started in the audience. Phones began to light up, one by one like fireflies in the dark. I saw the head of the foundation walk briskly to the side of the stage and show his phone to an aide. David, confused, faltered in his speech. His own phone on the podium began to buzz incessantly. He glanced down. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I saw his shoulders slump. The mask of the great architect crumbled, revealing the panicked thief beneath. At that same moment, miles away, I imagined Lily opening a lacquered box. I pictured her seeing the photograph, her own face reflected in the eyes of a teenage girl. I imagined her reading my note, the words connecting her past, her present, and her talent in one devastating loop. The man she loved, the man whose career was imploding on a live stream, was not just her mentor. He was the man who had abandoned her mother. The foundation of their love story was not just a lie, but a dark generational tragedy. David stumbled off the stage. The ceremony was abruptly ended due to a technical difficulty. But everyone knew. By the next morning, Maria Flores's article was the #1 story in the world. David Davenport was not a visionary. He was a fraud. His firm collapsed within a week. His partners deserted him. His legacy was erased. I never heard from either of them directly. A friend told me Lily left him that night. She moved out, disappeared. I don't know if I will ever see her again. Perhaps that is for the best. I didn't do it to get her back. I did it to reclaim what was mine. My story, my past, and my name. My house is quiet now, but it is not empty. It is filled with my books, my work, my peace. I have taken down David's sterile art and replaced it with my own collections. I have brought life back into these glass walls. I am the sole architect of my life now, and it is a beautiful design. So I ask you as you reflect on my story. When you are wronged, is justice simply about leveling the playing field? Or is true revenge a form of creation? Is the most satisfying arc not one of simple destruction, but of building a new and better reality from the rubble of the old? Thank you for listening to her revenge arc. If my story moved you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the conversation in the comments below. Tell us what you would have done.